You're not man enough for her anymore, Cole. She told me everything about your performance issues. My name is Cole Bennett, I'm 48, and I used to be a Marine before I settled into building stuff in Phoenix. Blake Murphy is my wife's trainer, he's 28, and he just said that shit to me on the phone. What he didn't know was that I was recording him. I put the phone down on my kitchen counter, the same counter I put in 2 years ago when Hannah wanted the house to look modern. The recording was 22 minutes long, which was more than enough to end this whole thing. Let me back up and tell you how we got here. I met Hannah back in 2007 when she was working at an insurance company, and I had just gotten out of the Marines after 8 years. She was 27, I was 30, and she was a good-looking woman who was smart too. She talked about wanting to move up in her job and maybe get her MBA someday, and I believed her and helped her out too. We got married in 2009 and bought a house in Paradise Valley 2 years later. 20,400 square feet with nice mountain views that cost me $320,000 cash. Every dollar came from my Marine savings and construction work, but I put Hannah's name on the deed too because I wanted her to feel like a partner. We talked about having kids, but it never happened. In 2015, Hannah said she wanted to get her MBA, which cost $45,000, and I paid it all. She graduated in 2017 and got promoted, and I was proud of her. Then 3 years ago, her mom got sick with diabetes and couldn't live alone anymore, so Hannah moved her into our guest room while I turned my workshop into a bedroom and put grab bars in the bathroom to make sure the old lady had everything she needed. When she died last year, I paid for the funeral, and Hannah cried and said she couldn't have done it without me. That's the kind of husband I was, a good husband who paid for everything and took care of her. But I should have been paying attention to what Hannah was becoming instead. Things started changing 6 months ago in February, right after I made the final payment on our house, when Hannah suddenly joined Iron Core Gym. She had never cared about fitness before, but suddenly she was going to yoga 4 times a week, then CrossFit, then personal training. New workout clothes started showing up. Expensive Lululemon stuff that cost more than my work boots, along with sports bras that didn't cover much, and she even changed her hair and started wearing makeup to the gym. When I said she looked good, she'd smile and walk away. Her phone behavior changed too because she used to leave it on the counter screen up, but now it was always face down and always in her hand. She changed her passcode for the first time in 18 years and started showering twice a day, once when she got home from the gym and then again before bed. When she came home from training, she smelled like perfume instead of sweat, and working late became normal even though her paycheck stayed the same. She stopped wanting sex with headaches and being too tired or stressed about work. I tried talking to her about it, but she got mad and said, "Not everything is about you, Cole. I'm dealing with stuff." So I gave her space because I figured she was still sad about her mom, and I kept working and taking care of the house and being patient. 3 weeks ago, I found out Hannah was lying about more than just her schedule when I was doing our taxes and looking at credit card statements. I found charges I didn't recognize, a $400 spa day on a Tuesday when Hannah said she was in meetings, and a $180 dinner at some fancy steakhouse on a Wednesday when she said she was working late. I checked the GPS on her car that we got installed 2 years ago, after cars kept getting stolen in our neighborhood. Hannah knew about it because she wanted it. On Tuesday, March 15th, Hannah's car was parked at some apartment complex for 3 hours during work time when she was supposed to be in meetings. I drove by there myself the next day and her car wasn't there, but I saw the apartment building, a nice place that looked expensive. I looked up the address and found Blake Murphy, Unit 247. That's when I hired a private investigator. Doug Harrison was a former Phoenix cop who was 62 years old and knew his job. My lawyer recommended him, and it cost $2,500 for 3 weeks of watching Hannah. "I've seen this before," Doug told me. Wife gets into fitness, changes her looks, gets secretive with her phone. 9 times out of 10, there's another guy. Question is how far it went and what you want to do about it. I wanted the truth. The first photos came 5 days later. Hannah and Blake at Starbucks on Tuesday at 2:17 p.m. with her hand on his arm and his fingers touching her wedding ring while both of them were laughing. Wednesday showed Hannah's car at Blake's apartment from 1:45 p.m. to 4:20 p.m. and Doug got photos of them kissing in the parking lot. Thursday was lunch at some fancy place with Blake's hand on her thigh under the table and Hannah whispering in his ear. After 2 weeks, Doug had documented 15 separate meetings, coffee dates, apartment visits, dinners, and even a weekend at a Tempe hotel when Hannah told me she was visiting her college friend in Tucson. "It's a full affair," Doug said. "Physical and emotional. They're not trying to hide it anymore, and it's been going on for a while. But I needed more than photos. I needed Blake to confess." I called Iron Core Gym on a Friday and asked to talk to Blake about my wife's training schedule, and they put me through to his cell. "This is Blake. Blake, this is Cole Bennett, Hannah's husband. Want to talk about her training schedule." There was a pause. "Oh, hey, Cole. What can I do for you? I kept my voice normal and professional. Hannah said you might be available for more sessions. She's been happy with her progress. Yeah, she's been very dedicated, Blake said, and I could hear him smiling. Very committed to improving herself. That's good. She seems more energetic lately and more confident. Well, I bring out the best in my clients, and Hannah especially responds well to my personal approach. I stayed quiet and let him talk. Between you and me, Blake said, his voice getting quieter, I think Hannah really needed someone who could give her the attention she deserves. You know what I mean? Not sure I do. Come on, man. A woman like Hannah has needs, and she told me how you're always working and how you've let yourself go. She deserves someone who makes her feel special. My hand got tight on the phone, but my voice stayed calm. What are you saying, Blake? I'm not saying anything. I'm telling you straight up. Hannah's been getting what she needs from me for 4 months, and she's never been happier. 4 months. Since February, right after I paid off the house. Thing is, Cole, Blake kept going, Hannah's thinking about making some changes. Maybe it's time you both faced reality about your situation. My situation? Hannah told me about your problems in the bedroom, man. That's rough. But she's still young enough and she's got desires you can't handle anymore. Lucky for her, I can. 22 minutes of Blake confessing to screwing my wife, all recorded and all legal in Arizona. But I wasn't done yet. The next morning I went to see a lawyer. Lisa Martinez, who specialized in family law, was 44 years old, sharp, and handled big divorces. Arizona splits marital assets 50-50, she said, but adultery affects spousal support. If you can prove she used marital money for the affair, that changes things. I showed her Doug's photos and played Blake's confession while Lisa took notes. This is solid evidence, she said. What's your goal? Quick settlement or consequences? I thought about Hannah crying at her mom's funeral, about the MBA I paid for, about 18 years of thinking I was building something with someone who was planning to take half and leave. Consequences, I said. Lisa smiled. Let's talk strategy. The first step was protecting money, and within 2 days, I transferred the house to my mom's name as a legal gift transaction. The cars went next, and I closed our joint bank accounts and moved my money to a new account Hannah couldn't touch. I couldn't hide marital assets, but I could stop Hannah from emptying accounts while we figured things out. Then I set the trap. Iron Core Gym was Blake's kingdom, where women in their 50s paid him $150 an hour to feel young while he flexed in tight shirts. He was the tough guy there, and his reputation was everything, so I decided to visit his kingdom. Friday evening at 6:30 p.m. was busy time at Iron Core with the after-work crowd everywhere. Office women in expensive gym clothes, young guys showing off, and old folks staying fit. I counted 43 people, and most of them had phones. Blake was finishing a yoga class, and I watched him through the glass wall of Studio B, where the room was full of women doing poses that made them stick their asses up while he adjusted their form. I waited by the front desk until his class ended. He came out with that confident walk and a towel around his neck like a boxer, and he saw me right away, probably wondering why Hannah's husband was suddenly interested in fitness. "Blake!" he called out loud enough for half the gym to hear. "Great to see you. Hannah didn't say you were thinking about joining." "Walk out before I embarrass you, old man," Blake said, getting closer, and his voice carried across the gym because he wanted an audience and wanted witnesses to see him humiliate the old husband. I didn't answer, but just walked over to a bench near the free weights and sat down, then started untying my work boots. The leather laces were worn but good, like everything else I preferred. Blake followed me, getting bolder. "You're not man enough for her," Blake said, positioning himself where the mirror caught his profile so everyone could see this building. Phones were already coming out. I pulled off my right boot and set it carefully beside the bench while Blake was still talking and building his show for the crowd. He had good muscle definition and probably spent 2 hours a day maintaining that look with clean diet and proper supplements. All the visible signs of fitness that impressed people who didn't know the difference between looking strong and being strong. "Last chance, old man," Blake said, cracking his knuckles. "Walk away now, and maybe I'll let Hannah down easy when she asks about you later." I started working on my left boot, taking my time with the laces while the crowd was getting restless because they wanted action and wanted to see what happened when youth met age. I finished with the laces and looked up at him for the first time since walking in. "You done talking, son?" Blake's smile went away for a second, then came back. "Sure thing, let's grab a smoothie and chat." "Actually, Blake, I wanted to talk about Hannah's training program." I kept my voice normal but loud enough to carry. "Had some questions about the special services you've been providing." "Here's fine," I said, pointing to the open gym floor where people were listening now. "I wanted to ask about the personal attention you mentioned on the phone yesterday." People started looking, and Blake's eyes went narrow because he realized I wasn't going to make this easy. Look, Cole, maybe we should... You said Hannah's been very responsive to your personal approach, I kept going, curious what that involved exactly. Blake looked around and saw that a small crowd was gathering, pretending to stretch while obviously listening. Think there's been a misunderstanding, Blake said, and his confidence was going away. I pulled out my phone and opened the recording app. Want me to play back our conversation? The part where you talked about giving Hannah what she needs? Or maybe the part where you discussed our bedroom problems? Blake went pale, and several gym people had stopped working out to watch. You recorded me? Blake said quietly. I documented a conversation with the man who's been fucking my wife, I said clearly. The man taking money for training while using that access to destroy my marriage. The gym went dead quiet and every phone was pointing at us now. Blake lost it completely. You don't understand. Hannah came on to me. She's unhappy with you and she told me. She told you about our private life, about our marriage, about things that were none of your business. I stepped closer while Blake backed up. And you used that to justify stealing another man's wife. I didn't steal anything, Blake yelled. She chose me. She's been choosing me for months because you can't satisfy her anymore. The confession echoed through the gym, and someone's phone was definitely recording this. Blake threw the first punch, a right cross putting all his gym muscle behind it and aiming for my jaw in front of 43 witnesses. He'd been practicing this in the mirror. I shifted my weight slightly left and let his fist whistle past my ear by maybe 2 inches. His momentum carried him forward off balance, and I helped him along with the gentlest touch to his shoulder. He stumbled past me and crashed into the weight rack while 45-pound plates clattered to the floor like thunder. The crowd erupted in surprised laughter, and Blake scrambled to his feet with his face red from embarrassment, looking around to see who caught his humiliation on video, which was everyone. Lucky dodge, old man, he snarled, but I could hear the uncertainty creeping into his voice because that hadn't gone how he'd planned. Was it? I asked, still standing in the same spot. Blake charged again, this time going low for a tackle, a football move that probably worked great against other gym bros who fought like they were in a movie. I simply wasn't there when he arrived, stepped aside at the last second, and used his momentum to guide him face first into the leg press machine. The impact made a satisfying thunk, and Blake bounced off the padded seat and hit the floor hard. His perfect hair was messed up now, and confusion was replacing confidence. What the hell? He gasped, pushing himself up on his hands and knees. You're telegraphing, I said calmly. Drop your right shoulder before you punch, lean forward before you charge. Basic mistakes. The gym had gone quiet except for the sound of phones recording, and Blake's humiliation was being documented from every angle while his tough guy image crumbled in real time. Stop moving and fight me like a man, he shouted, lunging again. This time I caught his wrist mid-swing and applied pressure to a nerve cluster I'd learned in advanced combat training. His fingers went numb instantly, and the 25-pound dumbbell he'd grabbed dropped to the floor with a heavy thud. Attempted assault with a weapon, I said quietly, still holding his wrist in front of 43 witnesses. You sure you want to go down that road? Blake's face went pale and he tried to pull away, but my grip was immovable. 8 years of marine conditioning versus 3 months of gym workouts was no contest. Let me go, he whispered, the fight finally draining out of him. I released him and stepped back while Blake cradled his numb hand against his chest, fear replacing the arrogance that started this whole mess. His trainer's shirt was soaked with sweat now and his hair was sticking to his forehead. You want to know what 8 years Marines really taught me, Blake? I asked, loud enough for everyone. Patience, how to gather intelligence, how to spot threats, how to recognize when someone's feeding classified information to the enemy. The crowd was completely silent, phones recording every word. See, I've been watching you and my wife for 3 weeks, I kept going. Coffee dates that weren't training, apartment visits during work hours, hotels charged to credit cards I pay. Blake looked around desperately while his humiliation was being recorded from every angle and his reputation was being destroyed in real time. Hannah told you about our marriage, didn't she? About our private life, about problems that didn't exist except in her head because she needed to justify what she was doing. I pulled out my phone again. But what she didn't tell you is that I've been working long hours to pay for her mother's medical bills, that I've been distant because I was arranging her care, coordinating insurance, making sure she got the best treatment. Blake was breathing fast and panicked, with sweat dripping onto the gym floor. By tomorrow morning, every gym in Phoenix will know about Blake Murphy, I continued. The trainer who got humiliated by a 48-year-old man in front of 43 witnesses. The guy who couldn't land a single punch on someone old enough to be his father. Hannah doesn't know that yet, I said. Wanted to surprise her once everything was arranged. But you know what? I think she deserves to know the truth about both of us. I found Hannah's number and hit speakerphone, and the ringtone echoed through the gym. "Cole?" Hannah's voice came through clear. "I'm just leaving work. Everything okay?" "I'm at Iron Core Gym," I said, eyes on Blake. "Having a conversation with your trainer." Pause. "Oh, I can explain." "No need," I cut her off. "Blake here has been very educational. Told me all about your dedication to fitness, how committed you've been to your workouts." Blake was shaking his head and mouthing no at the phone. "Cole, please," Hannah's voice was tight. "Let me come down there and we can talk privately." "Actually, I think we're done talking," I said, "both of us. Blake was just explaining to everyone here how he's man enough to take another man's wife. Weren't you, Blake?" Blake looked sick, and the crowd was eating this up while phones captured every second of his complete breakdown. "Hannah," I kept going, "you should find a new gym. And Blake, you should find a new career. Social media moves fast these days." I hung up and put the phone away while Blake was backing toward the exit with his reputation destroyed. "Where you going, Blake?" I asked as he reached the door. "Thought you wanted to show everyone how manly you are." He stopped with his hand on the handle, trapped between his destroyed reputation and fear of making it worse. "This is over," he said quietly. "Oh, it's over," I agreed. "But not how you planned." I walked closer while Blake pressed against the door. The confident trainer who talked about stealing wives was now scared like a kid. "Know what's going to happen next?" I asked in a normal voice. "Those videos everyone took? They're already uploading. Social media moves fast." Blake's eyes went to the phones pointed at him, and he was starting to understand. "You set me up," he whispered. "No, son, you set yourself up. I just gave you rope." Blake grabbed the door handle, but before he could leave, Hannah burst through with her face red from running. "Cole, wait," she started, then stopped when she saw Blake. His split lip, messed up hair, sweat-soaked shirt, and the defeated look in his eyes. "What happened here?" "Your boyfriend tried to teach me a lesson," I said calmly. "Didn't work out how he planned." Hannah looked between us and saw the crowd with phones, Blake's humiliated state, weight equipment scattered around, and the 43 people still recording. "Blake?" she said uncertainly. But Blake couldn't meet her eyes because his image as the confident, dominant trainer was shattered and he was just a scared kid who'd gotten in way over his head. "This isn't how I wanted you to find out," Hannah said to me, her voice small and shaky. "Find out what?" I asked. "That my wife was cheating with a boy who can't throw a punch. I figured that out weeks ago." Blake pushed past Hannah and ran out, leaving her standing there in front of 43 witnesses to their affair. "Cole, please," she said, voice breaking. "Let me explain. This whole thing got out of hand." I looked at her for a long moment and shook my head. "No need, Hannah. I understand perfectly. You made your choice months ago." I walked past her toward the exit, but stopped at the front desk where the gym manager was standing with his mouth open. "Might want to review your trainer policies," I told him quietly, "and maybe get better liability insurance." Then I turned back to Hannah, who was still standing in the middle of the gym floor, surrounded by people recording her humiliation while her affair became viral content. "Hannah," I said loud enough for everyone, "when you get home tonight, you'll find divorce papers on the kitchen table. My lawyer has copies of the photos from your coffee dates with Blake and recordings of your phone conversations. Amazing what a private investigator can dig up in 3 weeks." Her face went white. "You hired a detective." "Marines taught me to gather intelligence before engaging the enemy," I said. "Your boyfriend made the mistake of thinking this was about muscles. You made the mistake of thinking I was too old to notice what was happening in my own house." Hannah looked around desperately because her affair was now public knowledge, documented on dozens of phones and already spreading on social media, and her professional reputation would be next. "The house is in my name now," I said. "The cars are in my name. The bank accounts we opened when we got married? I closed those yesterday and moved the money. Legally. Everything I did was legal." "You can't do this," she whispered, tears starting. "Already done," I said. "Oh, and Hannah? You might want to ask Blake about his job situation. I hear Iron Core doesn't like trainers who create this kind of publicity." I looked around the gym one last time at the crowd still recording, at Blake's water bottle and towel by the weight rack where his humiliation started. "Enjoy your workout," I said and walked out. 8 months later, I was in my new apartment in Tempe, reading the paper over coffee when I found an article in the business section. Iron Core Gym had closed permanently after a series of viral videos damaged their reputation and led to multiple client cancellations, with the owner citing staff misconduct and social media backlash. Blake Murphy tried to find work at other gyms, but the videos of him getting dominated by a guy 20 years older followed him everywhere. Last I heard from Doug Harrison, Blake moved back to Ohio where he lives with his parents and works at a supplement store now, his dreams of being a fitness influencer destroyed by 30 minutes of footage that went viral across Phoenix gym communities. Hannah moved in with her college roommate after the divorce and tried to fight for half the house, but the evidence of her affair made that impossible. Arizona has no-fault divorce, but adultery still matters for spousal support and assets. The divorce cost me $8,500 in legal fees, and Hannah walked away with her car, her stuff, and the $28,000 she moved to her private account before I found out. 18 years of marriage reduced to whatever fit in a U-Haul truck. I started my own engineering company doing bridge design and renovation, and 3 former colleagues joined me. We're already booking contracts 6 months out because it turns out there's demand for engineers who show up on time, do quality work, and don't create drama. My phone buzzed with a text from Lisa Martinez, my divorce lawyer who'd become something more over the past few months. Dinner tonight? Know a great place in Old Town. I smiled and typed back, pick you up at 7. That evening, driving to meet Lisa, I saw the Superstition Mountains in my mirror, orange from the sunset, and for the first time in years, I felt completely at peace. My phone buzzed with the text from my sister in California, saw the gym videos online. Proud of you for handling it with class. The videos had gone viral, but not for the reasons Blake hoped. Blake Murphy and Hannah Bennett learned that betrayal has consequences, that trust once broken can't be fixed with excuses, and that some people will smile to your face while planning to take everything you worked for. But I learned something too. Sometimes losing people who don't value you is the only way to find people who do. The strongest revenge isn't violence or anger, but letting people face the consequences of their choices, then building something better from what's left. Justice doesn't always wear a black robe. Sometimes it just carries a smartphone and waits for the guilty to convict themselves. If you liked this story about betrayal and consequences, like this video and subscribe right now. Every day brings completely new stories, each one more gripping than the last. And if you haven't subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications for new stories like this one. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.